Hey guys, this will be video 12 for the how to design build a 58 Explorer replica and paint it sapphire blue and then install shark fin mother of pearls inlay in a maple fretboard, which has turned out to be a really beautiful guitar. I've got the top waxed and buffed, polished 3 times, 3 coats of wax, and then I got the sides and the neck and the headstock waxed 1 coat, but the back is only wet sanded up to 1500 grit. And in a few minutes, I'm going to pause and break the guitar down because this is just a mock-up right now. And we're going to go into a little bit of demonstration about doing some wet sanding and how to achieve a really beautiful guitar just by hand without using any machine buffing at all. And but what I'll do, in case you're not familiar with this job, what this is a sapphire blue color that I mixed up custom for a guy by the name of Art. It's been a really cool client, and this guitar is going to be going to California. This will be my second Explorer in California, and then seems like I've got something else out there, but I'm drawing a blank. But nonetheless, this was Art's idea to do the sapphire blue. And as soon as I heard him talking about sapphire blue, I was pretty much hook, line, and sinker. I was ready to build this thing. So this has been an awesome project. It's not been an easy project, but it is true Nitro Cellulose lacquer, and it is semi-transparent, painted over a course of several weeks, if not about 4.5 weeks, over a Nitro Cellulose white, antique white base. And then as I did all the paint work, I just kind of gauged when to slow down on the colors on the color build, so that it would have a little bit of semi-transparency, but when you walked out from under the light, the guitar would look really, really dark sapphire blue, if not almost black. So let's do a little bit of a flyby, and then I'll break it down, and we'll talk about just order of operations a little bit. I'm going to try to go as absolutely slow as I can because I want to capture some of these photos. Again, this is like, this is just mock-up. I don't have this screwed down yet. And in case I forget, I never install these small screws until I'm finished with all of my wet sanding and polish work, so that I don't risk the top getting contaminated with water and swelling. Those little locations will get you in major trouble. So with these locations down here, so if you did drill these holes, make certain that you put some wax in there when you're doing all your wet sanding. Because when I say wet sanding, it's this thing. It's like washing a car. It's super, super wet. Let's see if that's in the camera. I'm extremely happy with this thing. Again, even like the pickup rings, they're not even fastened down yet, and I can't tilt it too much because everything is pinned, but the knobs, the potentiometer knobs, they're just floating. They would start sliding around. So I'm going to change sides of the neck. Get on the other side of the guitar, and I'll lean forward a little bit. Shark fin mother of pearl, inlaid in maple. I did every bit of this with an X-Acto knife by hand over a course of, I think, about a week and a half. It took a long time, but turned out really beautiful. So I probably won't be doing that again for a while. Show the headstock. Let me see if I can lean it a little bit. Tell you what I'll do. Let me do this. You don't have to have those on there because everything else is pinned. I had mentioned in one of the early videos that I was tempted to tint this side dots in blue, and I did. I tinted them with a blue, and you can see them if you get under light, but for the most part, they just look black. I gotta be really careful. I get myself in trouble here with this thing. Anyway, turned out really good. Very happy with it. Still got a little bit of polish work to do, like final hand buff polish work, but I'll tilt it a little bit. But the cool thing about it, anyone who's ever owned or built a custom guitar, as soon as they take hold of this guitar, they'll know that it was a handmade guitar, because the cool thing about it is it's not perfect. It's got a few little flaws. If you really, but I mean, you kind of have to look for them. But for the most part, it's it's really beautiful. It's got some nice glow. Now I'm getting smudge prints all over it. The whole idea about this video is to showcase it for the owner. And in case I forget, Art, I did get your email. I will be signing I'll be signing the inside of the control cover. I don't sign them on the outside. That, to me, that would be really narcissistic. But I would sign the inside of the cover and basically say, fall of 2024 or something like that. I don't serial number them, but this would probably be about guitar number 155 or something like that. I haven't really built that many, about 155, maybe 160 guitars, maybe more, because I've built quite a few Explorer reps lately. So anyway, I'll be signing the inside of that gold ink and try to make it as clean as possible. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful, rare, one of the rarest guitars in the world. I doubt there's another one out there like this. So, Tessie kill switch, rocking cool. And in case you want to know, it's about as close to the center of that bridge as I could get. It's behind it just a little bit, but turned out really well. And we'll talk about that control cavity in there. Switchcraft three-way, we'll talk about that stuff a little bit. This is the bridge. That's the Cluson USA nickel with the nylon saddles. That's just a cheap knockoff chrome that I use, for demonstration purposes. But the actual nickel Cluson aluminum tailpiece is over there with the string stuck in it, wrapped, coiled up in a coil. So, okay, so I hope I got some good pictures there, because I may do a still camera shot and then use that as the what do they call it, the thumbnail. And one thing I've forgotten, I'll talk about this a little bit, but yeah, I think I did mention it in the last video. By using the CTS pots and the Switchcraft and all the quality stuff, man, I'm telling you, you can just feel it when you plug into a quality guitar. So, and you can definitely feel it's got a really good connection there. So, anyway, and the reason I brought that up is if and when you build a guitar, don't get chintzy on your parts. Get the really good stuff if you can afford it. So, all right, let me check the time. Intro was 8 minutes. Yeah, about 8 minutes. I think I did mention we're going to be doing a little bit of wet sanding here, and so let me do just that. Let me. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just break the guitar down and talk about it as I'm removing each component. The ground wire, when I build my guitars, when I install this anchor, as I'm pressing that anchor in, and again, as I've mentioned in past videos, I always epoxy my anchors in. I have the ground wire that is stripped and basically identical to that right there. It's stripped up here about 3/4 of an inch long. I drill a real nice small 16th to 1/8 inch hole right there, feed the ground wire through there, and then when the anchor presses in, this gets bent over a little bit, and when the anchor goes down, it makes a real nice contact, and it's an internally hardwired, grounded guitar at your tailpiece. So that's about as good as you can get as far as grounding goes. So that's how I build all my guitars that have the hardtail, or that's how I ground all of my guitars that have the tailpiece anchors. Cluson USA nickel. And I always try to, if you put a screwdriver up there and you're doing something like that, go ahead and cut a little piece like this, have a little access hole, and then do your removal work in case you drop your screwdriver, or if you drop it straight down, you won't be doing You want me to be doing 2 hours worth of repair work. Those are bamboo skewers that you can use temporarily to mock up. And the reason I talk about this mock up stuff so much is because that's where you really get all of your design ideas from. By having these parts over on the table, doing all your mock up. Okay, those are reproduction pickup rings, but they're identical to the vintage M69 Gibson specs. These are flat on the bottom, but tapered. In other words, they have the pitch. And then a little bit of tape here. So I can remove it fairly quickly. Okay. The whole idea about this, I've already covered this in several videos, and I was a little frustrated with this thing right out of the box, but I didn't realize I should have spent a little bit more time with it, only to realize that if you, because I felt like it was too tall, well, it was too tall directly from Tessie, but it was intended to remove these wires, and then these are designed such that they have a slot in them, and they bend over very easily. So you're able to bend them over very simply, and then let's see what sort of minimum depths you would have. If you were flushing out, it would be about 23 millimeter. So as long as you're about 25 millimeter below the surface, you should be right at the threshold of that being the minimum amount of depth you'd want to cut. So that's roughly about 1 inch deep cut, and that's acceptable. That's not that bad. And as I had mentioned, I'm going to be gluing this in place so it doesn't move around, because the only thing I did not like about the Tessie is these little spring clips right here. They're fairly weak, and I'm afraid that they would probably eventually break. And this is, since this obviously is already cut for this, and this item is supposed to be pretty much almost guaranteed for like life. It's supposed to be guaranteed for like a million ditto clicks or something. So I'd say you're probably fairly safe to just epoxy this in, 2 little epoxy drops over here, and then that will guarantee that there's no movement on it. Okay, so I will be doing that. And then if you ever did for some reason want to remove it or change the color, then all you'd have to do is just come in here and break it free. But how this was cut, I've already covered this in past videos. I'm only just going to show it. But I just machined a larger access in order to receive the Tessie in the top location, and then the actual wiring here. These 3 wires, as well as the 2 wires out of the pickup, will travel down and below the Tessie, and then come back around and go down into the they'll come in right there. And see, there's your ground wire. There's your internally hardwired ground wire in place. And this right here, this was just a mock-up, so this jack's going to come off because I already have the output jack soldered onto this one, but I just wanted to have that demonstration for the beginning of the video. Okay, so I got a whole bunch of crap on the table here. Let me make certain I don't do anything that's going to scratch the guitar. And also you can see where I've got the back of the guitar wet sanded with a 1500 grit and ready to polish. So there you have it. I've already covered that. I've already covered this wiring I've already covered this in enough detail in video 11, so I'm not going to talk about this wiring at all, other than it's the good stuff. Switchcraft 3-way L-type, braided, vintage correct, pushback wire, you name it. And then that was the only modern feature we added, and Art requested that kind of fairly close to the end of the job. So it was cool that we were able to, I didn't rush the job, or I was able to do the additional work. And really, I don't No, we didn't even charge for that, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so let me put that to the side. Don't think we'll need to talk about that anymore, because I want to move into wet sanding here fairly quickly. Excuse me. All right, get everything. Yeah, again, I talked about this in video 11, so I'm going to get it out of the way so it doesn't risk scratching the guitar. Any of that stuff. The only thing I didn't mention in any of the videos, I'll go ahead and cover it just briefly. It's kind of a given, but I always install Shaler strap block. These are not Shaler Germany, but they're Shaler reproduction, and they are nickel, and they're extremely high quality. That's what I use on all my guitars. So I'll be putting it in its historical location, which will be somewhere in that area right there. And that's very important because that's based on the whole weight and balance of this guitar. If you tried to put it in the center, it might feel a little bit weird. So I usually put it exactly where it's supposed to be, which is about 2/3 of the way up that span. Okay. And if you want it, well, I'm not going to talk about it. I could, if you want to know how I determine exactly where it is and not miss it by half an inch, basically you just shoot a straight line from the center of the low E all the way up through that center location right there, and then your straight edge line will come down here, and it will present to you the actual location. Okay, and I'm basing that on pictures of vintage guitars. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to change foam. This is basically just your traditional foam, like if you bought a gun or a bow or a compound bow or something like that. This will be in a case or maybe some other item. This works great for doing wet sanding work. Okay, the order of operations are this. You want to go ahead and have your top completely finished. You want it to be really presentable. And let me get this off before I forget and start wet sanding and contaminate that stuff. But basically what I like to do is finish the top 100%, then do all the electronics, and then wax and polish the back, and then the guitar is finished. But if you were to come in and try to wax the entire guitar and polish it and buff it and get it really beautiful as you're trying to do your electronics work and you're like flipping the guitar over back and forth, you run the risk of damaging something, and then you've got to repeat every bit of that polish work. So I like the idea of the back being still a little bit rough right now, and if I did have some sort of scratch, a very gentle scratch, it's not a big deal. It's something I can work out. In case I forget, and in case you haven't seen any of the past videos, when you're installing your Tessie kill switch, the white wire will come down and solder to the positive terminal there, and the black wire will solder to the ground, and that's all you need. And basically what the Tessie kill switch is doing, it's grounding out the circuit. Rather than breaking the lead circuit, it's just grounding out the whole guitar. So ground, according to how fast you do your ditto work. Okay, so we got our foam there to protect the top as much as we can. I don't like the idea of towels, anything at all. And when I wax these, actually, I do not use cloths. I use my hands. Now I wax, you'll see, I'm going to show you exactly how I do my wax work in a moment, where I use the actual the little foam, but didn't have to do any machine buffing, and to me that's good enough for rockabilly. And you can see, even though this has not been waxed, you can see as you're doing your wet sanding up to like 1500 grit, you're going to get a revelation as to what your guitar is going to look like once you do your waxing. Okay, and the cool thing about handmade guitar is I personally love it that they just have a beautiful warm vintage glow. They don't look like they were made in a mass produced factory, where everything looks identical. I just love that. I think it's really cool to have the you know little quirks, and like it's a little bit darker in this area where you're doing all this spraying, and whatever tint you're working with has a tendency to get a little bit darker right there, has a tendency to get a little bit darker right here. But then, you know, we get back to our shocking sapphire blue out here. But again, once you move out of the halogen light and you're just walking around, on stage or wherever it is you're playing, the guitar is really dark. I mean, it's truly sapphire blue. And if it's night, it's going to look black until you walk up under the lights or pass by the lights. Then you'll see the sapphire blue. How do you wet sand? I'm just gonna go straight. I've got in there a 1500 grit sandpaper already because that's what I use to do all this initial work. And this is enough right now. I could polish it, but I just want to do the demonstration so that you can kind of see a trick that I learned, especially if you're painting, or you're wet sanding a black guitar. And in case I forget, don't do anything in swirl. Nothing. Don't wipe and swirl. Don't rub it with your hand. Well, I take that back. When you're polishing it with your hand, you'll see in a moment what I'm talking about. You can definitely use the swirl, but when you're wet sanding, don't do any swirl work at all. I'm sorry. Let me back up. Let me clarify something. When you are, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what I was just said not to do. When you're doing your cut work, like if you're cutting out the orange peel, it's okay to cut in a swirl fashion. But when you finish this guitar, let's say you had some orange peel right here that you were working. Let me try to get in this camera. Let's say you had some orange peel right here that you were working at. It's okay to focus on cutting that area right there. Okay, and get it cut down. And I'm barely putting any pressure right now at all because I don't want to cut into it. Um, but once you really start wet sanding the guitar, you want to move very much linear. Some people say to use a block. I don't like sanding blocks because I can't feel the guitar. And I want to feel the guitar. And trust me, you'll feel it through the sandpaper. If there's a little bit of roughness right here, you'll feel it. And then you can make the determination of whether you want to do some cut work or you just want to, stay linear. And then the key is you don't want to see any color here, but if you see a little bit of color, you'll know that you've cut through your clear coat, and that's probably when you need to start really, well, if you cut through the clear coat and you start picking up color in your paper towel, but you still have what's called holidays or little divots all through there, you're going to need to spray some more clear coat. You don't have enough clear coat buildup. But if you get the guitar down to where you can't see any divots and everything is perfectly dull, when you wipe right here, when you wipe this and it's dry and it's perfectly dull, it's ready to polish. As long as this was done with a minimum of 1500 grit. And if you want to really do a phenomenal glow, take it up to 3000 grit. Okay. Got a little gnat. Oh, I got him. I got these little fruit fly gnats in here. And how long did it take to sand this back earlier after I had clear coated it? And because I shot some more blue on the back of this guitar about a week ago to deepen it up a little bit. And then every other day or so, I would shoot a few coats of a clear atop that, wet sanding a little bit in between coats. Uh, I spent about 25 hours just painting the back, sanding and leveling, letting it dry, then shooting some more clear, letting it dry for a day or two, and then finally getting the final beautiful clear coat on there from like a week ago. And I let it cure for almost 7 days, and then spent about 3 hours doing all the final wet sanding and cutting. So you'll end up spending far more time painting and wet sanding and polishing than you will building the whole guitar. So if you want to build guitars, um, either get really good at doing painting and finish work, or find someone who has a quality shop and can do that part for you. And don't be cheap, because trust me, they earn what they will save you. Okay. Again, everything that I'm doing is unnecessary. It doesn't need to be done, but I just want you to kind of see. Obviously, I'm not having to do it on camera, so I'm able to get it up under my person a little bit easier, but I'm not doing any circular work at all. And if you feel the paper stick, get some. One thing I failed to mention, I should have been wiping this a little bit. And if you notice, I'm even wiping in a linear fashion, or a linear motion, I should say. No color, so that means what we're sanding and the top of this guitar is going to be authentic nitro cellulose lacquer clear. But if you start dragging a little bit, just get some very mild soap water under there. And also, I've noticed that the slicker the surface gets, the more it has a tendency to start creating a vacuum, because every bit of it's making a 100% connection to the surface. There are no voids there. So she's ready to wax. But the way you will wax it is to, take the wet, and I'm going to have to pause here because I'm going to have to let this dry for about 5 minutes and just really make certain that it's a dry surface and I don't have any, dust on there, even though the dust is wet. Still no color. Throw that away. Dry cloth. I only use the Brawny. Brawny is a really good cloth. It's soft enough it doesn't scratch, but it will scratch if you start swirling. It will scratch. Okay, I got some spots right there. That's from earlier. I did just that. I scratched it with something, whether it's paper towel or whatever it was, it got scratched a little bit. Now, if I wipe across this and I have a little bit of blue, I'm not going to panic, because that blue is still nitrocellulose lacquer. Okay, but I didn't. Okay, throw that away. Get it off the table. Don't leave any stuff like that up on the table, because you're tempted to pick it up and reuse it, and it's probably going to be contaminated, and you run the risk of scratching your guitar. Now, if you wanted like just a vintage matte look, then that's your finished guitar right there. And it will stay like that. But then the neck, if you did that to the neck, then the neck will eventually start shining a little bit just from your hand sliding across it. As you're doing all the work, you're actually hand polishing it with the oils from your skin. Make certain there's no water on the sides, because once you start doing your wax work, you don't want to pick up any water. Okay, let me pause. If you've never done any waxing before, I think the most important thing is to just listen to everything that I mentioned as I go off the top of my head. It does not take too much. And typically, if anything, people put too much wax on here, and then the more you rub, you just start getting this liquefied mess. But if that's in the camera, uh, just because you have the wax on the body, that's only 10% of it. I'm actually putting some fairly serious pressure here, and I'm going off the edge just enough to go off the edge. But if I had too much wax built up in my sponge, I would be getting a mass of wax uh, overhang. But don't travel out of a location too soon. The whole idea of hand polishing is you are now taking the place of machinery, and you need to be putting some pretty serious, put some pressure. Don't just sit here and rub it. That's not going to do much. It will a little bit, but you want to kind of press into it and actually do the final, uh, polishing. And you'll be tired after it's all said and done. In case I forget, make certain that once you're up in this area and the area over here is dry, don't try to come back across it and wax over into it as it's dry. You'll pick up dry debris wax, and you run the risk of, scratching it. For some reason, I guess just because it's the sponge and it's so fine, it doesn't have a tendency to leave swirl marks. Not that are noticeable. They're a little bit more noticeable in black, but not too bad. Because you really have no choice. I mean, you could sit here and wipe in straight lines, but I like the idea of really kind of the circular motion because it forces me to stay in one location and actually polish that area by hand. Okay, check time. 33 minutes. Typically, two coats of wax are plenty. If you're not achieved, as soon as this haze is over and I rub it clean the first time, it'll be glowing. It'll be beautiful. And if it's not, then you need to back up and punt and go back to your 1500 grit wet sand and do more wet sanding. And if you start seeing color, then you know that you weren't ready to polish the guitar. You still needed to do additional clear coat work. And according to the equipment you use, if you're using the, I think it's M113 406. Yeah. If you're using the M113 1406 from like Woodcraft, or that's a Mohawk product, you could probably buy it online. After you've done your really beautiful base color work, you can get away with about two nice thin coats, your third coat fairly wet, and then let it dry for 7 days. Minimum of about 5. If you load up right there, don't worry about it. Just let it load up. You can clean that up later on. But I say that to say this, make certain that those areas are clean before you're waxing so you don't pick up any trash and transfer it into the body. Okay, I'm gonna pause because I need to pull this guitar over to me so I don't pull a muscle. Okay, it's only been about 5 minutes. Had to wash my hands, but obviously that's as much as you want to see. Just a very thin haze. Okay, and then I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. Put it to the side. Let it dry a little bit more. And what's going to blow your mind? I don't use a cloth or terry cloth or anything. I just come in with my hand really clean. I used Dawn dishwashing detergent and washed my hands, get any of the oil out. And then because of the wax, there's still a stickiness. And I don't really recommend it, but you kind of have no choice. I used mineral spirits, and then I washed my hands with mineral spirits, and then get the wax off my fingers, and then or my hands, and then wash again with some Dawn detergent, and then I've got really nice dry hands, so that when I'm getting ready to remove that wax that's on there, I'm going to come in with the palm of my hand and my fingers, and I'm going to start I'm going to wipe it off with my fingers, and then I'm going to start polishing it with the meat of my hand right there until I feel the surface get really, really warm. I mean, really warm, and it's amazing. I can watch it glow by another, couple of shades once it gets really warm. So it's pretty cool. I'm gonna grab this guitar, and this is one that I've been painting for a couple of nights now. I think I did my first coat last night. This one is sanded up to about, what was the last sand coat? Maybe 800 grit or something like that. And just a regular Nitro Cellulose lacquer mixed with an Alcad lacquer or something like that. Yeah, and I forgot to mention that. I had talked about this guitar in an individual video, but I didn't show this stuff. This is called Alclad 2, ALCLAD, Roman numeral 2 lacquer. And it basically says patent pending. And this is called Pale Gold, ALC number 108. This comes out of Tennessee, and the name of this company is called Alclad Lacquers, 127 Leach, Leach Lane, Clinton, Tennessee. And I'll give you their number. It's area code 615-216-0940. Wow, it's amazing that I don't need glasses to read that. But this bottle right here, I mixed it with about 4 ounces of clear nitrocellulose lacquer tinted with some trans tint honey amber, and was able to achieve that color within one night. Didn't require a whole lot of work, but I'm going to do a little bit of additional wet sanding because I want you to see what you typically run into when you're just sanding color. Because your paper towel, you're going to need a stack of paper towels is where I should be going with this, because it's going to get messy really fast. And I'm going to be sanding this with probably an 800 grit. Yeah, I'll be sanding this with an 800 grit. And as far as doing this work, because I'm still cutting off. See how this still has a little bit of orange peel? Not much, but it is there. So this I will be cutting. And you need to go ahead and get your paper towel in your hand. because you're going to want to catch this color, the pigment, so that you don't smear it down into your finish. So when you're doing your cut work, nothing wrong with doing circular. And you can kind of see the gold a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And I can feel it. You can probably actually hear it. I mean, it's just, even though it's fairly smooth, it looks smooth. Well, let me just stop talking. You can hear that. I'm actually cutting. Now, because the reason I'm sanding this is in order to spray some of the M113 1406 clear Nitro Cellulose stringed instrument lacquer. What I will be doing is sealing in this color. And then I'll build, like I said, probably 2 to 3 coats of the clear 1406. And if I want a beautiful, beautiful mirror reflection, then I want to sand this up to, yeah, this 800 grit would be fine to then start doing the clear coats. And you could do those 3 coats within 1 day, within about a 1 hour interval. And then about 7 days later, buff it up to 1500 grit, if not 3000, and you'll have a mirror reflection. I need to be careful because this was a little bit thin back here, and I hope I'm seeing a shadow. I hope I didn't get too thin right there, because I really just wanted to do this demonstration to show you. I don't know, it may not show much color. It's showing a little bit, but it's a fairly level surface. In other words, once I start spraying my clear atop this, it'll be very slippery. It'll be as slick as that if I want it once I finish it. With this guitar, I'm most likely going to do some relic work, distress work. I talked about that a little bit in the video related to this guitar build. It's basically a 59 Carina Les Paul replica, 59 replica. But I'm probably going to do a little bit of distress work right here and a little bit of distress work up here, maybe a couple of nicks or 2, not much, because I don't like that whole artificial look. But I also don't want it to look like a brand new store-bought guitar. Okay, I need to stop, or I'm gonna sand through, because the lacquer mix that I used was fairly transparent. Yeah, I did. I sanded a little bit too much right there. So I made a little bit of a, oh, maybe not. Let me stop. Let me stop panicking. I dipped down in the water there a little bit just to wash it, because that's the soapy water. Be careful around these four locations right here. Get them too wet, they'll start opening up. I should have put a little bit of wax in there, but I'm not wet sanding this one much. So right now I'm just cleaning. Okay, throw that away, go with the dry. All right. Then I'm ready to shoot my clear coat after this dries. But what I need to do next is go over to my bathroom, the sink, and get some clean water and just wash this. So let me do that, because I don't want that soapy residue to dry on there. This is the first gold top I've ever done. So the reason I wanted to talk about that product is it was really affordable. It was like maybe $10, maybe $12 tops. off of eBay, and they ship out of Tennessee. They may ship internationally, but there might be a hazard. There might be a fee for shipping international since it's a pretty volatile product. It's amazing. When I look at it from that direction, it looks like that's thin, but it's probably just a little bit of discoloration in the actual lacquer itself. Okay. So now that we've spent a little time with that, and I don't know if you can see the texture. It's still got orange peel, but that's okay because I knocked off the top surface enough that I can now come in and spray the clear and seal it. A couple of coats, maybe 3 coats max. Or, go ahead and do the distress work like I was talking about. It's good. Okay, this other surface up here, the cool thing about it is you just want to be careful and protect it. But it may be that you elect to wax this one more time before you do the hardware assembly or electronics. Check the time. 46 minutes. Okay, so dry enough to a haze. Certain that there's nothing up under the body there. Okay, I got a moist cloth here. I know my hands are clean, but now that my hands are a little bit wet, I want to dry them. I want my hand to be really dry when I do this. I tried the terry cloth stuff, but I got to tell you, it didn't work. Okay, so what I did, I wiped it off with my fingers and got the crap kind of out of the way. And then I actually went ahead and started using the palm of my hand. And I can feel it heating up. Sometimes I'm using that part, sometimes I'm using that part. But it's definitely warm. And since you did the initial wiping with your fingers, that's really just the area that you're wanting to clean off a little bit. Got a towel over here, I'm just drying my hand a little bit. I am polishing a little bit with my fingers, but there's no sense in trying to reintroduce that dry used wax. I just need to go ahead and go into the polish work. It warms up immediately. If it doesn't get warm, you're not pressing enough pressure. And I've noticed that it doesn't seem to matter whether I'm doing circular motion or straight motion here. It doesn't leave a swirl or a haze. I used my fingers to wipe off some of that up there. Now I'm waxing with the hand. You'll get a really good idea of how good you are get how good your health is. It's like a cardio workout. Okay. That's only one coat of wax. And then obviously, because you did the same thing on the side, just kind of heat up that corner. Make sure you connect the two. And obviously this is not the final wax job. And if you wanted to, if I hadn't have been planning on doing this in video form, I wouldn't have even waxed this until the guitar was built. Strings on it, everything played in. Then I would have done all this. But I wanted to capture it in video form. Also because I haven't done a video for this client in about a week, and that was a little disrespectful. I should have already done a video a few days ago. So there's your guitar art coming together. Really beautiful. Got a lot of smudge marks up here where I've been, handling it. And the main thing at this point, this is the only thing I don't like about the Explorer. It's kind of big and it can be clumsy when you're trying to handle it. So you're going to need a large table, open space, just room to not screw it up. I got to do a little bit more wet sanding right there to get that to come alive a little bit better. Otherwise, it's just looking good. All right, so we'll check the time. 52 minutes. I did a little bit too much there, so I took my thumb, wiped off that waste, so it's up on my thumb. And it wouldn't matter if you stopped and paused and went and, washed your hands or whatever. It's not like it's time sensitive. And I probably didn't clarify, when I do that initial wipe, I probably should spend just a little bit more time kind of doing a little bit of polish cleaning there on the start. Rather than just like wiping it off and getting it out of the way, I probably should go ahead and do a little bit of polish work with these fingers, before I move into the palm of my hand. I wouldn't do this with a car. You'd probably wear you out. But the pain we go through to produce a beautiful guitar. And I kind of mentioned in a couple of videos ago, we're not worshiping them, but if you're building a guitar, it's because, you're probably a bit of a perfectionist. And, you want the challenge, you want to be preoccupied to get your mind off of something that you're, working through or getting behind you. And there's nothing that will take your full attention quicker than a guitar or a violin or restoring an old saxophone. I actually restore saxophones as well. Haven't done one in a while. But the last one I did was an old French alto called the Noble Standard. That thing sounded incredible. And I suffered from Bell's palsy last year pretty bad from February all through the summer. And I had to sell the saxophone because I've lost a lot of the function in the right side of my mouth and my jaw. I can't really hold the embouchure anymore. So, life happens. But I do like, I'll watch eBay for like the old saxophones, and man, they'll pop up, you know, sometimes they'll just about give them away. And it doesn't take much to bring them back, or actually it can take a lot to bring them back according to the condition they're in. I've done a few trumpets. I can play trumpet just enough to play the B flat scale. But I love restoring the trumpet because everything about the trumpet is very much like machine work because it's all, you know, it's all brass, slides and stuff like that. To me, it's a very cool instrument. Okay, and if you realize that, oh crap, you got some rough spot, that's just, I didn't get enough wax off of that. That's still kind of blotchy. As you can see, it's still waxy. But if you saw that you had some divots in there, then you would need to take some mineral spirits, put it on your brawny paper towel, and wipe the entire surface clean, just like you were sanding it, and then do your sand work again, the wet sanding again, dry it, and then start over with your wax work. Okay. All right, let's see if I can, oh, I almost dropped that off the table. I'm not gonna worry too much about presentation with closing this video because I know it's fairly close to the end right there, but coming together very fast, and according to what time it is, I'm probably gonna go ahead and start doing some of the soldering for the wiring harness tonight, but not on camera. So let me check time. Yeah, 58 minutes. That's plenty of time. So I appreciate you guys dropping in, and I'll see you in the next video.